All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. I hope everyone had got a little break last week. I know some of our staff was able to take some vacation time, enjoy the nice weather here in Michigan. Meghann did some hiking, I know, even though she went to Ohio to do it. She was still able to do some hiking. So I'm glad everyone had enjoyed some nice free time. I was thinking of two things yesterday, actually. This is what I do on my free time. One, we call this a podcast, yet it's not really a podcast. So
no, it's not.
I mean, either Meghann might know a better name for what this is because she's more like the millennial side of things. Or maybe we need to bring in Hannah on this to get it a better name, but I think we need to think of a better name. The other thing is, and I think this is even more important, is I feel like we need some entry music. So like when it starts, like when the batters come into the batter's box, they have some music playing. When a professional wrestler comes into a ring, he's got some music playing. So maybe
Steve, we actually have that.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, that was built for when we were actually in the format of a podcast, and we would edit in our intros and exits for audio.
Well, I clearly haven't been given access to choosing the songs for the intro and intro music and exiting music.
No, that didn't reach up to your executive level.
Oh, we might need to change that because I have some good ideas for it. It could change every week.
I am afraid of those ideas.
Remember, lots of songs we'd have to pay to use them.
Well, we could, like Pink Floyd Money would be a great one when we talk about the budget, right? Be great intro. It'd kind of set the scene. All right. Let's move on.
I'll have Brogan record something for us. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be safe for our audience.
Yeah,
all right. Well, this is our first podcast of April, and what is April, everyone?
National County Government
Month.
There we go. So welcome everyone. Happy National County Government Month. Meghann, we put a resolution together. We've got something going on in the legislature. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we had a very enthusiastic former county commissioner, now representative, Ken Borton. He was willing to sponsor a county government month resolution for the month of April, and he has been fantastic. He got all of our other former county government officials that are now serving in the state house to co-sponsor that. Obviously, they've been out for a couple weeks now on their in district periods, and so once we start session this week, we should see that introduced and adopted, and we're really excited and very thankful to have such great support in the legislature, recognizing how important county government is in our state.
Yeah, we have some information on our website as well, correct?
Yeah, Derek put a whole toolkit together. There are sample press releases and proclamations that county boards can put together. So check out our webpage. It's on the homepage, and then you scroll to the right side, and there's a whole thing on National County Government Month. So check it out. NACO also has a ton of stuff on their website too. So I encourage everyone to look into it and see what you can do to promote your work and at the county level at home.
Well, great. Thanks for your work on that. Derek, thanks for your work on all that information for our counties to take advantage of. Well, like Meghann mentions, there has been quite a break in the legislature the past few weeks, but we haven't stopped working on the 4-year county commissioner term bill. So Deena's got some decent news on that coming up, right?
I would say it's good news. I mean, I think we have, after talking to some members of the committee, I think we have good support to get it out. We just have to get Senator Zorn and then the Senate Local Government Committee to take the bills up. So again, these are Senate bills 242 and 245, sponsored by Senator McBroom and Senator Moss. So it is a bipartisan package of bills this time, just starting in the Senate. And from what we understand, Senator Zorn has given a commitment to run the bills. We just don't know if it's going to be this week or next week. But we do know that he has committed to getting the bills running out of his committee. So we're very, very excited about that. And then Derek put together that phone to action campaign. and that went out this morning. That phone to action campaign is very easy for everybody to use. It should have been emailed to you. And it's just got, the direct message to the members of the Senate to, hey, support these 4-year county commissioner term bills. So keep our fingers crossed, get some movement on it.
Yeah, so keep the pressure on back at the local level, everyone. That's been very helpful. We'll keep working on it here in Lansing and get that out of committee, hopefully, in the next few weeks, and then we work on it on the Senate floor. All right, the other thing that's going to be happening over the next few weeks here is budget. We got a budget, of course, we're working on right now. This is next year's budget. Deena, can you give us a kind of a status update on the budget and what we're expecting to see happen in the next few weeks?
The budget's it's a strange process because it would make total sense if it actually worked the way that it's supposed to work, but I don't know if it necessarily does. So the legislature breaks the bills up into different budget areas. We know this, like our revenue sharing is in general government, indigent defense is in the LARA budget. So all of these things are broken up differently, and the subcommittees hold their hearings on them, and then they make their decisions and their recommendations. The subcommittees then send it to the full appropriations committee. Well, subcommittees get scheduled to make some of their decisions and kick those bills out of committee this week. So they'll say what they're going to fund at what line item and how much, and send it to full appropes. And the full appropes committees, both in the House and the Senate, will look at those bills, maybe take some amendments, make some different changes to them, and then swap them over, and they go through the process again in the opposite chamber. So we expect subcommittee action this week, full appropriations committee action probably next week, and then action on the House and Senate floors to switch the budgets over. But it really all comes down to what are their targets and how much will they actually have to work with. So after it goes through that process, and it's both the House and the Senate, the bills are going to end up in conference committee anyway on items of difference. And once they're there, then they get the real targets, like how much money do you actually have to spend in each particular budget, and what are the real high level priorities of House and Senate leadership and the governor's office, and then sort of move things around a little bit from there. So it's an interesting process. It's not as black and white as you would think, but at least it's moving forward starting this week.
Yeah, isn't there a revenue estimating conference between now and then too? Typically in May, we usually get one, right?
Yes.
And that helps with the targets.
But yes,
yeah.
A May revenue estimating conference. And then that gives us just a better idea. Now, I don't know how the whole American Rescue Plan money is going to factor into this. I think that's, a huge issue. I think it's going to affect both state line items and local line items, maybe a little bit. Hopefully not, but maybe a little.
Yeah, and I would just add, as we've been hearing from legislators or the governor's office on those American Rescue Plan funds to the state, I think they're struggling with some of the things that our county commissioners are struggling with. Really, these are one-time dollars coming in, and how are they going to maximize it? How are they going to make it, last longer if possible? And I think waiting for a lot of guidance from Treasury as well. So, so those are the conversations that I think make this budget year really unlike any other.
Yeah, so we do have a general framework out there. We have the governor's recommendation committees have been working on it a little bit. How are things shaping up right now?
I know overall, Deena can touch on revenue sharing, those conversations. I think overall I've had really good conversations on some of the larger ticket items that counties are hugely focused on. I know our Indigent Defense Commission grants, it's been a large ticket item in the LARA budget, pretty much the largest line item in that budget, and so something that we always have concern about. But so far we've had really positive conversations, particularly in the Senate, where Senator Nesbitt actually invited Mac and a county administrator that serves on the MIDC to committee to talk about the county on the ground work through those grants and implementing the standards, how the new standards going to affect the dollars needed. So I think we had a really good conversation with that committee, and have some support in the legislature for ongoing needs for those standards.
Good, yeah. Revenue sharing, I don't want to comment on yet, Steve. I don't want to comment on it just because I have an ask out there that I'm, till the both House and the Senate for a little bit more money for county revenue sharing than what was recommended by the governor. So I'm not quite ready to comment on that yet.
Wow, adding some suspense to the budget process. Interesting, interesting. Before I forget to, if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat session, and we'll make sure to get those at the end of the session. Meghann, there's some housing bills that are getting introduced today, tomorrow, this week sometime. We've got a general sense of the framework of these affordable housing bills. Can you give us a little more detail on what we can expect?
Sure, yeah. So we recently joined what's called the Housing Michigan Coalition. And so it's really a broad group of stakeholders from local government entities to business entities and community organizations, really to address the lack of affordable housing around the state. And so a lot of the legislation, I think there's about 11 to 12 bills now that are drafted. It's bipartisan. They'll be introduced in both chambers, I'm expecting on Thursday, but really focusing on providing new tools or expanding on current tools for local governments and new incentives, for affordable housing and building affordable housing. There's ways to really encourage employer support for housing so they can cover certain things for their employees that are moderate or low income workers. And so there's a number of different things. We did put a article about it on our last LU, a legislative update on Friday, and it links to the specific language and kind of one-page summaries on that bill package, but they should be introduced this week, and I think have a lot of support from various entities and things that we'll need to, dig into as it works through the process a little bit. But overall, it's just something that we know is a huge need in every corner of the state at this point.
Great, great. And then finally, I'm sure everyone's on the edge of their seats looking for an update on the American Rescue Plan and what are they going to be able to use the funds for and everything like that. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for information on that. As soon as we get something, we'll be passing it along. We have worked with, by we I mean MAC has worked with Livingston County on putting out an RFQU, which is a request for qualifications on getting some folks, some business groups, some entities that have worked with counties in the past to assist with helping with answering some of those questions, tracking, recording, all sorts of different things. And as soon as we have more details once those responses have been filed and we've kind of got a better idea of what we'll be presenting to everyone, we will be sure to pass it along so everyone can take advantage of that and get assistance because it's going to be needed. So unfortunately, no new update yet. We've got nothing from U.S. Treasury yet at this point as far as guidance on these funds. But if you do have questions, please feel free to email any one of us and we will try to get you an answer as best we can and as soon as we can. So with that, Deena, Meghann, anything to add before we open it up for questions?
Can't think of anything right now.
Just use that P2A button for your term.
All right, Derek, any questions?
Yes, we have one question. Roseanne Marchetti. With all the COVID money and ARP money, I hear there is worry that counties will lose revenue sharing from the state.
The state is going to be restricted on what they can use the money for too, but they are going to have, all of their own priorities. I have not heard that. I don't know. I'm a little concerned that you did hear that. But we have not heard that they are going to take away our county revenue sharing. We haven't heard a word of that. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know NACO tried to get that language put into the federal plan was to prohibit any revenue share that went to locals, that states couldn't do that. Unfortunately, they weren't able to. But to be honest, this is a battle we fight every year, right? I mean, we get statutory revenue sharing. We're constantly fighting for revenue sharing every year. So this is nothing new to us. We're used to it. And I would agree with Deena's sentiments that we have not heard really from anyone that is the legislature's intent or the governor's intent at this point is to cut any sort of revenue sharing or state sharing dollars to locals.
Right. And I'll add this too, just to help you understand it, that we know and we will articulate to the legislature that your revenue sharing is unrestricted. That is for your general fund, for you to use on the things that you don't get direct line item appropriations for. When you get American Rescue Plan dollars, when the state, those are going to be restricted to eligible expenses. And again, we're still waiting on some guidance from that, whereas your revenue sharing is not. And so they can't, we're going to argue, and we would always argue and fight for this. They can't put restrictions on that. They can't tie, that money up in ways that it wouldn't necessarily be useful for every county. And to trust you as elected officials to make that determination on where to put those funds. So I think it's the flexibility inherent in your revenue sharing that will really stress if we hear any of those threats.
All right, Derek, any other questions?
That is it for questions this week.
Yeah, well, it's, we're coming off break. It's a Monday after a little bit of a break. Everyone's got a case of the Mondays. We understand. Now we're back in the swing of things. So with that, I mean, anything, Deena, Meghann, anything to add? Nope.
No.
All right. Well, I failed to mention in the beginning, thanks to DTE for sponsoring this podcast, or whatever new name Meghann and Hannah are going to come up with eventually for what we're doing.
For the record, when we switched over to this, webinar sort of series, I said it's not really a podcast anymore since we're on video.
Is that documented?
Derek, you remember? Who remembers?
She did say that, Steve. I
Yeah,
think
she probably did, but
I'll back her up on.
we're
Yeah.
just redefining what the word podcast means, like redefining what infrastructure means.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.